Hello. Hello.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. A warm welcome to one and all. Today's session is on pranayam, and Dr. Aditya, a short introduction about him. Dr. Aditya has completed his degree in naturopathy and yoga from Rajiv Gandhi University of Health Sciences, Karnataka, Bangalore. He has worked in STM Hospital and Yoga and Naturopathy and Shatayu Ayurveda and Yoga Retreat Center. He has conducted many corporate yoga classes, customized yoga therapy sessions, and also yoga show in news channels. He has worked as a junior research fellow in S. Vyasa University, Bangalore. He is an expert in acupuncture, hydrotherapy, nutrition, and manipulative therapy. He has won many yoga competitions and also was a lead trainer in the Guinness World Record event conducted for the largest yoga class in Karnataka state in 2013. Now he's working with us here in Ishka Healthcare, HSR Layout Bangalore, as naturopathy and yoga consultant. Welcome, doctor, to the session. Over to you.
Thank you, Doctor, for that sweet introduction of me. So, good evening, everyone. Today, we will be doing a session, not a session exactly, but we'll try to get into the aspects of pranayama and try to understand how and what exactly are we trying to do here or trying to get involved ourselves into. So, uh, pranayama as a concept, what yoga talks is about यावद्वायु सितो देहे तावत् जीवनम् उच्यते मरणं तस्य निष्क्रान्त्यस्तो वायुं निरोधयेत्, which means that is taken from Hatha Yoga. So it means that whenever there is a movement of air which happens across the system, that is over the boundary, that is above the so-called the concept of body and within the body, there has to be some kind of a movement. This movement is only advised, or this movement is only uh, sorry for that. Is it audible now? So moving on. So that's what we are talking about in yoga as such. What exactly is?
Yeah, you're audible, doctor. You can continue.
Okay, fine. So whenever the movement of air happens within the body system and above the body system, these two things are always there. So the force which is there around us is what making us breathe in and breathe out. That's the reason why Patanjali Maharaj says, especially in his sutras, that tasmin sati shwasa prashwashayor gatir vichedaha pranayama. That is the force or the pressure of these things around you, which is surrounding you, is what is going to create as pranayama. And also says that bahyabhyantara stabda stamba vrittir deshakala sankhyabihi paridishto dirgha sukshmaha. Why I'm breaking it down is for you to understand. So whatever the external force is, it is only creating to understand how body moves. My reason why is I just want you to take a few moments to understand how the breath moves. So if you all are doing no much work, I mean, it's kind of a practice which you can do right now. For me, yoga is more like an experience. That is the reason why I want you to feel the changes. Take your index finger, place it just close beneath your nose, and just feel the breathing. So, when you're exhaling, when you're inhaling, what kind of a breath which is moving in and out. So probably at the end of the presentation, you can tell what exactly is happening. Okay. So just check for a few moments, just see how the breath is coming out and how the breath is going in, and which of the nostril, the right or the left, is more dominant as such. So once that comes into your mind, and slowly as we go into, because we have a lot of things to cover today, like this, we can try to understand how well the concept of breathing happens in your system as such. So pranayama is after you've done this, I hope you have taken a side, like either the right nostril or the left nostril. It's breathing more better. So the pranayama is nothing but the science of breath, how so-called non-living thing is converting into a living thing, and how the life itself is taking care. Because see, whatever you eat, it's basically either dead or it is not living per se. Which you are seeing is basically a reflection which is falling on an object. Which you are sensing is nothing but a sensory information. So which you're breathing is also basically a mixture of air which contains of nitrogen, oxygen, and all the other compounds. And also the thing which you drink is also nothing but combination of hydrogen molecules and oxygen molecules. So basically it's just chemical in nature. But when these chemical or chemistry as such happens within the system, then you call it as life. So the life aspect of this so-called this entity as a oneness is nothing but what is so-called non-living is being converted into living. So why does that happen, or how is that happening, is because of the two definitions which we can get, or two things which we can see in the word pranayama. So prana means vital energy. So this is the reason why I said all which is non-living in nature is getting converted into living structure in itself. It itself is a ecosystem of itself. So expansion is not just the lungs which is expanding. You must have remembered down the lane 30 years back, 40 years back, or even when, whatever be your age, you must have aged subsequently. So when you are born, you're not born the same way. You are born with a little bit of structures of your hands, little bit structures of your eyes, little structures of your body as such. Now we have grown up. So this growing up initially didn't happen overnight, because of the food what you had, because of the breath what you take, because of the water what you drink. Slowly this came into existence. So this was there already. Only thing is we have been doing this on a repetitive mode. So what we say about this repetition is nothing but life. So once you need to understand, if you can just stop your food for a day, then you can survive probably for a longer than a day. That is the reason why we do fasting. And today's being Ekadashi, it's a fasting day for many of the people. Similarly, if you don't drink for one day, it's okay. Your body can tolerate a little bit of restraints without drinking, but not a moment can you stay without breathing. So that is the reason why breath becomes a very important matter for your existence and survival. So what exactly is prana? So prana is the vital energy which is giving you these life moments. This life energy is built by itself. So basically it is governed by 10 pranas. 5 are major vayus and 5 are non-major vayus. We'll discuss it. So prana are basically the vayus, or the energy levels, or the functioning aspects of your so-called system. So prana comes from lungs, or we can, as you can see in the picture here, prana comes from the lungs, which harmonizes the system. Apana comes from the lower abdomen, and it is taking care of your elimination. Udhana is in your throat, looking after all the sensory functions. Samana is in your upper body, looking at your homeostasis of your body. And Vyana is in the muscles, or all the organs which are so-called non too much inclined into the orientation, or non-involuntary in nature, but it needs for a function like that of your muscles. This builds everything around together. So this likes to bring together and tries to make this into a possibility. So as you can see, here are a few postures where exactly the vayus are located in your body. It is not just that vayu is entering into the system and going out, it is making an impact in your body as such. Along with that, we have 5 minor pranas like Naga, Kurma, Karika, Devadatta, and Dhananjaya. So these 5 upapranas are basically also involved in relieving pressures in your abdomen. It also takes care of your so-called pressures in your abdomen, that is of your belching and hiccups. Kurma also takes care of your blinking of your eyes, irises, and all the sensations of that. Karika takes control of your sneezing reflex, your coughing reflex, your hunger, and your thirst. Devadatta controls the sleeping patterns, yawning patterns, and all the other things. Dhananjaya is what is actually keeping your body intact. So it also produces phlegm and nourishes. So basically, it's present in your lungs. So of which, basically, this is to majority of you people who are actually practicing yoga. You need to understand all the postures in yoga. You need to understand all the techniques and the way you bring out these into experience is basically done through Hatha Yoga practices. Patanjali has never stated any kind of a specific asana, any kind of a specific pranayama, or any kind of a specific way of doing things. He has generally given you a thread. That is what you call it literally as a sutra. So you use that thread to tie around anything as you want to make it as a garland. So you tie around a flower, it becomes a flower garland. If you tie around a beads, it becomes a necklace. If you tie around gold, it becomes a string of necklace. So it's basically the thread is more important. So Patanjali has just given you the understanding about how this works. But Hatha Yoga as such proclaims few practices. So in Hatha Yoga, there are 2 different thoughts or schools. One is Gairandeya Samatha and one is Hatha Yoga as such practiced in, let's say, in the northern part of Rishikesh and Bihar school of yoga. So these are the few practices. Majority of the practices probably you might have not known. Probably you might have just understood about Surya Vedana, Chandra Vedana, Nadi Shodhana. Shitali Shitakari are also there. Bastrika very popularly done for many of the yoga institutes as such. Brahmari, Murcha, Plavani are the few techniques which Hatha Yoga Gheranda Samhita specifies. So basically, these kumbhakas or the retention of the breath or trying to absorb the breath as such comes in the practice of Hatha Yoga as such. So moving on, we need to understand when we are doing some kind of an inspiration or expiration. So basically pranayama or breathing is nothing but taking the breath in and exhaling out. So basically it happens in 2 things. So one is inspiration, which is active. You long to take breath. One is expiration, which is passive. You generally don't worry about whether it is going out or not. So it just moves out. So in this, there is inspiration. There are 2 types of it. One is external inspiration or external respiration, where the gases are exchanging at the level of your body. So oxygen and carbon dioxide are actually moving up and down, or from the low pressure to high pressure, they are just moving across. And then you have internal to this inspiration or internal respiration, where the exchange is happening between the blood and the tissues. So basically, it's just that how the body moves along and how there's a lot of changes which is happening in the system, you try to understand. So this, when we put it into practice, there are different kinds of way you practice these pranayamas as such. So it is not just inhalation and exhalation, it has to be retained. So Puraka, Rechaka, and Kumbhaka are the 3 things or 3 aspects of breathing as such. Puraka being the filling phase. So when you take in the length or the length of breath which you are taking in leads to Puraka, or we can say it as Puraka. Rechaka is the emptying phase where you're exhaling and trying to push breath more. So here, one more time, we'll do a small experiment. So slowly try inhaling. Inhale what you think as the maximum capacity of your lungs. Now slowly, with a pause, again start to inhale. You can see you can still more inhale into your lungs. Still more. Still more. So you can see there's a lot of areas that are actually not covered what you think as inspiration. Similarly, as you exhale, it is not like just a gush of air being pushed out of your nose. It's not like it has to be slower than what inspiration should be. So to get these 2 into our understanding, we had something called as Kumbhaka. Kumbhaka is basically retention. So it can be two types. One is Bahya Kumbhaka and one is Antaranga Kumbhaka or Abhyantara Kumbhaka. Both are the same names. So Bahya Kumbhaka is where you inhale and then hold your breath. And Antaranga Kumbhaka is where you exhale and you try to hold your breath. Basically, when you are inhaling and you hold your breath without exhaling for a longer duration, it's called as Abhyantara Kumbhaka. When you exhale, hold your breath without an inspiration, and that's Bahya Kumbhaka. So yes, so there are two kinds of Kumbhaka. This, if you are keeping on practicing with your regular practice, it creates a lot of weight for you to understand how well your breathing rate is. You can increase your lung volume, you can increase your lung capacity. Basically, the asthma and all the other major respiratory diseases can be curtailed with just these kind of two practices as such. So you must be knowing, or you must be asking a lot of things like, how is this even possible on a physiological terms? That's why we are here. So one is the flow of prana along the way. That is, it is not just the breath, it also the prana which is creating in your body. So many people might have been interested in reading nadis, because that is the where the sources of these things changes. You know, there is three kind of a nadi, which is very important. There are 700 and odd nadis, but still we need to understand the three simple basic nadis, that is Ida, Pingala and Sushumna. Ida is basically the stimulative in nature. The sun is what we call as Ida Nadi. Pingala is basically the restorative, relaxative, the moon Nadi. Sushumna is the balance between the two. So the balance is coming the first way when I asked you to check whether your breathing is harsh or it is slow. So what happens is, if you have just come up from some walking, if you have just had a huge meal, and if you had some kind of a diseases, you can basically something like, if your Ida is more stimulative in nature than diabetes and asthma, you can always see Ida being more stimulative. That is your right nostril being more stimulative. Similarly, Pingala is a relaxative. So you just got up from your sleep, you're not doing much of a work, you had your, let's say, tea by end of somewhere around 4 o'clock or 4:15, then you can see Pingala is much more dominant in itself. So Shumna is the reason why we are living. That is, we are trying to balance up these things. That is what we call as ultradian rhythm or ultradian cycle. You know, what happens in ultradian cycle is every 21 minutes or every so-called according to body type, it changes. So it moves from right nostril to left nostril to right nostril in every day, then 24 hours kind of a cycle. Basically, body itself is a cycle. So starting from circadian rhythm, then you have ultradian rhythm. So ultradian rhythm is basically for all your involuntary actions, your heartbeat, your perspiration, your digestion, and your breathing. So basically, here you can see that we voluntarily trying to take control of something which is not under our control. That is your ultradian rhythm. So this is the reason why we can see to it that our breathing rates and our way of handling our breath also becomes a very important part in how our so-called existence as such exists. Because if you have a disease and if you know the right way of breathing, then probably the disease will not be there for a longer moment. I'll just try to give you a small hint. If you have hypertension, or if anybody of you who knows hypertension, ask him to breathe much through the left nostril. Hypertension is a stimulative in nature, so obviously your Ida, the right nostril, is more dominant. So now you curtail it through your left nostril by breathing much through your left nostril. And all the freaks who want to lose their weight because of the lockdown or 60 days, try doing something with the right nostril. Try to stimulate your right nostril by just doing inhalation and exhalation with Kumbhaka, and you can see a significant drop after 21 days. So it's not significant drop like you will lose out 21 kilos, but you can see there's a lot of activity going under your body. So this is few things which you can actually do it at home. No work. Sit simply. See to it that you close your left nostril. Just breathe through your right nostril. Inhale and exhale through the same right nostril, and then your body will revert back in much more ways. This is the reason why this breathing pattern can also regulate your heart. It can regulate your metabolic activity. Also, because of breathing, you can be more focused to your work. And also you can see to it that a lot of other mental diseases can also be not cured, but at least it can be curtailed just by breathing. So the more important is how well you breathe and what are you trying to bring out of these breathings as such. So rules of the practice: best time is the dawn. So bath if is possible half an hour before the practice. Clothing should be loose and comfortable. Empty stomach at least before the either you do it before you eat or at least a half an hour after the practice. You see to it that you eat. So there's a gap between. You try to understand how the things are moving across or in your body. Diet, yes, it has to be balanced diet. You cannot have too much of a spicy diet. You cannot have too much of a heavy diet either before the practice or after the practice, because that will obviously change the way your noses are breathing. So place of practice, we always if you're doing pranayama or yoga as such, we want you to do it in a very ventilated room, breathing to the both nostrils or the nostril which you think is clear or which you feel that it has to be done, like as I said, either right nostril or the left nostril. It will always be good if you could sit in any meditative posture. If you're not, it's okay, you can sit in a chair and practice. Do not force breath, that is more important. So if you're doing it, it's just not like so you're not forcing the breath out of your nose. It has to move as simple as possible. The more force it puts, the more life energy it's utilizing. That is why don't strain your breathing. Let it be as smooth as possible. The inspiration is smoother. The explanation is more wider, longer, and it has to be more deeper. So it's not important how you breathe in. It's important how you breathe out. The more deeper you breathe out, the better it is. Or the more time you take to breathe out, it would be better. So obviously sequence. So as I said, there are 8 to 9 different types of pranayamas or the practices of it. Always you do with that, you start with energetic practices like that of Kapalbhati, Bhastrika, or any of them. And slowly come back to relaxative like that of, let's say, Brahmari pranayama. So you always move from stimulative practices to relaxative practices. But if you are focusing on just one kind of a disease, which you are very focused and you just want to look at this without taking the utmost health, then probably you can shift it to one kind of an asana or one kind of a breathing pattern for probably a longer period of time. So let's practice. Now again, after a few moments, you can just see, check your breathing rates or check your breathing patterns just by keeping your hands beneath your nose and try to feel if there is any kind of a change in the way you're breathing. If not, then let's see, you have to slowly build this upon yourself. So using your thumb, close your right nostril and the little finger closes your left nostril. See to it that the breath is more slower than what you think. So it is not like going this. So it has to be very slow. So when we are slowingly, I just show one nostril, that is right, how it has to be done, what goes in and how it comes out. You just have to see. Okay. So close your left nostril completely with your little finger. If you're not comfortable, any of the fingers. So inhale deeply. So inhale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Slowly exhale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Inhale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So you can see how deep the breath is. Basically, your inspiration is just one count. Your expiration is 4 times that of inspiration. So your expiration has to be real good so that you can push out all the so-called toxins, or let's not say toxins, but at least you have to push out the breath as much as possible, because the next inspiration will be much more deeper if you have just noticed. So the inspiration is always subtler. The expiration has to be more aggressively seen to it. So that is the reason why we focus more on expirations rather than inspirations. So as I said, the practice is also in the same way. So if you inhale and exhale through the right nostril, it is called as Surya Anuloma Viloma. Surya being the right, Anuloma being the inhalation, Viloma being the exhalation. Similarly, you shift it to the left, it's called as Chandra, Anuloma, Viloma. Chandra being the left, Anuloma being inhalation, Viloma being the exhalation. So Nadi Shuddhi comes here because there is no retention of breath. So cleansing, Shuddhi means cleansing. So it's basically a cleansing for your body as such, but you can practice it even though if you are feeling totally normal. So you can inhale through one nostril, exhale through the opposite nostril. Again, inhale through the first nostril, exhale through the opposite nostril. So this is Nadi Shuddhi, where you don't restrict your breath to one. So here, if you could introduce Kumbhaka, that is retention of breath, then that becomes more easier, that becomes more improved way of breathing. So if you could just stick on to 1:4 now, if it is very easy, see to it that you can keep the counts of 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4 for an inhalation, and 4 times that of 4 is 12 times. So you can slowly take that exhalation pattern as such. So you inhale and exhale accordingly into 1:4 counts. And you can see if you could practice a little bit more better, start introducing Kumbhaka or retention of breath. See to it that that retention is also introduced so that you have a mild pause between your inhalation and exhalation. So if you could just see to it that this is the way you can practice, then slowly your body's ability to respond to stimulus or response to any kind of an immunity diseases, which is always around us, even corona, but obviously the flus which are there, the so-called asthma which is there, and also diseases like hypertension, sleeplessness, and all those things, you can always practice pranayama and make sure your body feels well. So you're open for questions. You can always contact us if you have any further doubts, because we are running short of time. I couldn't compare the entire pranayama into 40 minutes of a passage or 30 minutes of a time. So you can always write to us at ishkaayurveda79@gmail.com. We'll get back to you. You can also visit our website. And also we're consulting at Bangalore, so you can always have a visit to our clinic and have a chat with us to understand your better way of doing things. So we are open for questions. Any questions? We will be taking it very shortly.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you so much for the wonderful session. We will be sharing our YouTube link also, where you can watch the videos. You can subscribe it. Any questions you can put in the chat box.
Or you can just unmute yourself and you can talk to us.
So, Doctor, just a question from my side, because there are many questions that come from people.
Sure.
After, in the night time, can we do pranayam before sleeping?
Yes, you can. If you're having any sleepless or sleeping disorders, you can always see to it that you practice more of left nostril breathing and you go to sleep. See, it is not like you have to practice for 5 counts or 10 counts. It is like you practice for a minimum of 24 rounds and 7 times a day. So it is not like just before you go to sleep, you do it. And also every practice has to be done for a minimum of 21 days. So we consider one as mandala. So we want you to do it for so that it completes one mandala. So one left nostril breathing 7 times in a day for 24 counts is more important for getting any kind of a changes in your body. And you can do it even before going to sleep. I have a question from Purnima. How pranayama is bringing parasympathetic dominance? Okay, it seems to be from a doctor's perspective, because I never use the terms parasympathetic and sympathetic. So yeah, pranayama is bringing more parasympathetic dominance is because of this. You know, as I said, this is the only ultradian rhythm which is under control of humans. So because of this control which we are consciously doing, there always, if you try to bring more of left nostril breathing, then that reduces the sympathetic dominance and increases the parasympathetic dominance. So left nostril breathing increases parasympathetic dominance because of the control of our way of looking into this thing. So once we start doing more of left nostril breathing on a regular basis, then obviously your parasympathetic dominance will come down. Okay, I have another question from Samir Bahadur. Can a person suffering from chronic fatigue syndrome perform pranayama? And if yes, which pranayama particularly? Okay, so chronic fatigue syndrome is basically it's kind of where your body is running out of your energy levels on a greater level. So it is not like just breathing through one nostril or both the nostrils. It has combination of multiple things. So for first and foremost, you can practice it with so-called Surya Vedana, that is right nostril inhalation and left nostril exhalation, followed by right nostril inhalation and right nostril exhalation. That is Surya Bhedana, Surya Anuloma Viloma, followed by Nadi Shuddhi. Why here more of right nostril breathing is introduced is not because your body is pushing more of a symptomatic response there. The reason behind being more of breathing through one-sided or combination of one or two sides is makes your body a bit more balanced. So that is the reason why breathe in through your right, exhale through your left. Again, breathe in through your right, exhale through your left. Now that is Surya Bhedana. Then you can perform Nadi Shuddhi. That is inhale through your right, exhale from your left. Again, inhale from your left, exhale through your right. So because of this balance, the chronic fatigue syndrome will come down. But yes, as I said, it is not going to happen overnight. You have to practice this 24 times in a cycle, 7 times in a day for minimum of 21 days as a minimum, because to create a habit in your body, we need 21 days for the body to adjust to the new system. At the same time, if you liked it, you can practice it for an over let's say 90 days of a regimen, because in yoga it says that it is more than 40 to 42 days is considered as mandala. Mandala being the so-called systemic arrangements in your body so that the body can take the hold over its changes. So that is the reason why you need to practice it. And yes, I think I have answered your question, Samir Bahadur. Thank you. Any other question? You can take it quick. Questions, anyone?
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah. Yes, Avinash.
My name is Anvesh, and
Anvesh. Yeah. Sorry for that.
I had a question that during dynamic exercises like running or hardcore exercises, what is the correct way to breathe?
See, when you are doing any kind of a dynamic breathing, you don't have a control on your breathing. See, that is the reason why we in yoga, after any dynamic session, we say Mukhadauti. Mukhadauti is you inhale through your nose and exhale through your mouth forcefully. That is one thing which you can do. But since this is not under our control, let the body decide what it wants to do. Because body is having more intelligence than what we can do. So that is the reason why forget about what kind of a pranayama we are supposed to do after an intense workout. But yes, if you're feeling lethargic at that moment, see to it that you do Mukhadauti. Mukhadauti is inhalation through your nose, exhalation through your mouth with a forceful exhalation like this. So you can just relax your body and just let the air out. You can feel better very soon.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
You can unmute yourself and ask questions.
Okay, write it in the chat box.
So I think we'll
yes, we'll wind
up today.
Yes.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
And more such sessions coming in future.
Yeah.
We will keep you informed. Thank you for joining us. Thank you once again.
Thank you, Doctor.